Hi, everybody, and welcome. It's Friday, so it must be Friday Facebook Live, and we have our expert legal panel with us. My name is Tanya Friedman. I'm from Connetics, USA, and we have Carl Schusterman. Hi, Carl. Very interesting background you've got today.
Well, yeah, I'm up in Alaska now, so.
Ah, very cool. And then we also have Chris Musello. Hi, Chris. How are you this morning?
Good morning, everybody.
Chris is in his office, I think, right, Chris?
Yes. We're our office has been at half staff, Tanya, for the last, well, mainly most of the COVID period.
Yes, absolutely. Well, welcome everybody. I think that I thought that Jacob was going to be joining us, but he doesn't seem to be here. If he comes in, he will join our panel. And we're very excited to get started today. I was actually thinking this morning as I was logging in that when we first started doing these sessions a while ago, I would read out a lengthy bio on everybody on the panel and showcasing your expertise. These days, we don't even need to do that anymore because everybody just knows who you are and knows that you know your stuff. You are the experts. Okay, so let's get straight to it. Welcome everybody. Thank you again, as always, to the Lafora admin team for giving us this platform. The purpose of the Friday Facebook Live with our legal experts is for the legal experts to share their expertise. The reason why we started this a while ago is we would see so many nurses asking each other legal questions and kind of going around in circles, not getting that expert advice. And we're very grateful to the legal panel who have agreed to share their expertise with us. So we have a lot of people joining us today. So welcome everybody, lots of questions. I have a whole host of questions that have been posted, and then I see people are already posting questions. So we'll get right to it. So Kalia is asking, what is the criteria used by the embassy to expedite an interview? Chris.
Yeah, so.
There's Jacob. Hi, Jacob. Hi, Jacob. Welcome. We're just getting started. So we're getting to the first question. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
Sure. So the question was expediting consulate interviews. And essentially, we're seeing them happen in two instances. There may be others, but there's two that we're seeing at our office. I don't know if any of the other attorneys have had other experiences, but the two situations we are seeing is one is that there's some American national interest. And so we have seen a number of COVID healthcare workers, their cases get moved to the top of the list and expedited. We've probably just in the last week or two, even out of Manila actually, had maybe a half a dozen to 10 visas issued in Europe and in Manila. So that's one incident, which is if we can prove that there's an American need for the worker. And the second incident that I haven't seen in this period, but I've seen it in other periods, and I have seen some chatter amongst other attorneys, is when there's an aging out situation, which is to say that the child, so it's the nurse and the spouse are coming to the U.S. and maybe they have a child who's approaching 21. In those incidences, we've seen the embassies move that case up so that the child can enter the U.S. before 21 and therefore activate their green card and not what we call aging out, which would mean, of course, that if the child is over 21, then they're no longer eligible for the green card because they're no longer considered a dependent. I don't know if anybody else has seen any other reasons. One thing I can tell you that I don't think we've seen is just some sort of desire to come or some economic reason. My experience, at least what I'm seeing online, is that those aren't being looked at favorably. But again, I'll let Jacob or Carl chime in.
Yeah, we had can you hear me, guys?
Yes, yeah. We can hear you.
Yeah, we had a couple of age-out cases from India recently that were prioritized, Mumbai And so, I mean, they definitely seem to be trying to help in that respect. And I had one NIW in Europe that was a researcher that was working on some sort of vaccine type of related technology. And he, they just let him, take priority, even though him and his family. So, I mean, it's isolated, but I agree with Chris that, it's not a policy. It just, it happens on a case by case.
Paul, have you seen much of the same or anything different?
No, I think Chris and Jacob said that very well.
Okay, good. And Chris and Jacob, you both mentioned Europe. We have another question actually here from Rose. If somebody's traveling from Europe, do they need to get the 212 waiver? And if so, how does somebody go about that?
Well, it would depend on their case if they would require a 212 waiver. It would depend what kind of visa they're seeking to obtain. I would certainly say that the simple answer is that that's probably not something someone wants to do on their own. They'll probably want to contact an attorney to really look specifically at their case to see sort of what visa they're applying, are there other visa options available to them, and then if they're subject to a waiver like the 212 waiver, that the attorney can help them craft and process through on that waiver. I would doubt very highly that anyone can do that on their own.
Okay, so if somebody has, so Rose, in that circumstance, please consult your lawyer about your specific situation. Okay, we're getting a lot of questions about the Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act with an update. Chris, I think maybe you're the best person to give us that update.
Yeah, so let's see. So starting with just for those few of you who maybe aren't aware, I'll just very briefly let you know that the Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act is an act that is in front of Congress right now. And of course, there's two houses in the American Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives. An identical bill has been issued or offered on both sides of that, both the House and the Senate. On the House side, which is frankly probably the less important, although still important side, we are up to almost 60 co-sponsors, and that's out of a universe of about 350 or so representatives. So that's very good. That's I don't know, about a fifth of the House there. So that's real good, and it's a mix of the two major parties in the U.S., which are Democrats and Republicans. And that number keeps ticking up, every week. Just here in the first 2 weeks of July, we've added about 10 names to it, which is great news. The more critical side is the U.S. Senate. Now, on the U.S. Senate, we have, I think it's 33 or 34 co-sponsors, which is a full third of the 100 members of the Senate. And again, it's a very big mix of both Democrats and Republicans. So all that's good news. And what the bill seeks to do, for those of you who don't know what it seeks to do, is it would take all doctors and nurses who have pending green cards, and it would eliminate retrogression for them. So they would immediately be current. So the visa bulletin would be released. There would be another line down at the bottom for doctors and nurses, and it would say current for all of those folks. And it would remain current for as long as the president keeps the U.S. under a national executive order, which is an emergency declaration. And there's been some news on this in the last week or two. Vice President Pence has said that he expects this emergency order or national declaration to continue for the foreseeable future. As many of you may be aware, if you're checking the news in the U.S., we're starting to see sort of a second wave of the coronavirus COVID-19 cases. So I don't think that the emergency order, emergency declaration is going to be withdrawn anytime soon. So as long as that emergency declaration is active, any nurse who's filed today, tomorrow, next week, any doctor who's filed today, tomorrow, next week, they would also get a retrogression-free visa. Once the emergency declaration is rescinded, and no one really knows when that will be, other than, again, Vice President Pence is saying that it's not, doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. Once the emergency declaration is rescinded, then 90 days later, the HWRA would end. And so, we think that that's, at this point, I suspect that 90-day period will probably last at least until the end of the year, and maybe even into 2021. Now, the only other sort of issues there in terms of the process of the bill are two. One, any nurse or doctor, any nurse has to have their employer attest that no U.S. workers are going to be laid off or furloughed, which we don't really think is an issue, but we think it's an important situation. We don't want, as a policy here in the U.S., we don't want U.S. workers being moved away and then foreign workers coming to take them. In nursing, candidly, it's not a problem. There's such a nursing shortage in the U.S. So that's one thing, but it is something that needs to be done. And then the second is that the bill will stop at 25,000 nurses and the bill will stop at 15,000 doctors. And so if, God forbid, the emergency declaration has to stick around for a year or two, at some point, the 25,000th nurse will get her visa through this program. Additionally, all immediate family members, that means those who are under 21, they also get their visa. Beyond the 25,000 quota doesn't matter. So if it's a nurse and a spouse, even though that's two visas, it only counts as one for the purposes of this 25,000. And then lastly, and what I'm sure everybody's curious is sort of, will this bill pass? And, I think it's still, it's going to be very close here. In the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think we will know up or down if the bill is going to pass. The U.S. Congress is expected to, at the end of July and into early August, put forth a COVID bill, and it's going to be a massive bill that's going to cover an enormous number of topics, and we are hoping that our legislation, the HWRA, does not remain standalone legislation, that it becomes part of this much larger bill that is working its way through Congress. I think we have a very real chance of getting that. The numbers I've given you are exceptionally high for any bill, especially something like immigration. Having said that, we are still, the lobbyists are still working every day. I was on about 5 different calls this week on it, as we're specifically targeting certain senators to try and get those senators to support the bill. The more senators we get of support, that increases our chances of the bill passing.
Yeah, thank you for that. That was a really clear, good summary of where we are at. And as the panel knows, and for everybody watching, there are many organizations in the US that are working very, very hard on this bill behind the scenes. There are many organizations that have endorsed this bill: the American Hospital Association, the NRHA. Connetics USA are partners of the NRHA, the CGFNS, Leading Age, that represents all of the nursing homes. We are all, we've been doing a lot of webinars just from outside at Connetics, and I know many organizations have been educating their clients. I know Carl, Jacob have been educating a lot of their clients to make sure that they understand this bill so that they can let their senators know that they endorse it. So there's a lot of work that's been going on in the US, and hopefully in the next week, like 2 weeks, did you say, Chris? That we'll know that it's
by the first week of August. I think by the first week of August.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's send our hopes and prayers on the Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act. We are also getting a lot of questions about, so Jeffrey has asked a question about the US, there's in the news has been information about the USCIS struggling with funds. Jacob, do you have any insight on that and how that might impact in any way?
Yeah, so it's been announced already for the past month that USCIS has requested a bailout of some sorts, and if not, they're going to be trying to furlough almost 75% of their workforce by August 3rd. Yesterday, there was the House Appropriations passed the first authorization for them to get funding, and it's still going to go through, I guess, the Senate to see what happens. But I don't know if they're going to have enough time to get this done before that deadline. But essentially what it means is that more delays. We already see that work permits and green cards are not being printed because they don't have the facilities or the resources. So overall, I think there's going to be more delays in family petition processing and maybe even I-140s. We just can't imagine this agency to almost shut down. It almost feels like a bad movie, right? But let's see what happens. Hopefully, they'll be able to pass something before August and save them.
Lots of things going to be happening in the next 2 weeks. I think this time is, as everybody knows, is just so unprecedented, so crazy. There's just so much going on. So it's such a fluid situation, and that's why I'm really grateful to the Lafora admin team for giving us this platform, so that we can keep you updated as these things evolve. We have a question, Carl. Well, we get this every time. Guess what it is? The Visa Bulletin. Predictions and any updates on what we can anticipate from the Visa Bulletin?
Yeah, so the Visa Bulletin for August hasn't come out. I just checked about a minute before we went online, but it should be, it should be out. If it's not today, it'll be out early next week. So we'll be putting that on our webpage. And also, usually for those who are just tuning in for the first time, Charlie Oppenheim, he's the fellow from the State Department who he puts out the Visa Bulletin, but he makes predictions for future bulletins. So the prediction that really affects nurses in the Philippines will be the EB3, the employment-based third preference category. That's the one that last summer all of a sudden went current after it had been backed up 6 or 7 years, and then it backed up, this year, so that it's a 2 or 3 year wait. It's been advancing a little. Charlie's predicting that when the new fiscal year starts, which is October 1st, 2020, that he thinks worldwide third preference will be current. So that'll mean no waiting times. Of course, there's processing waiting time. So just to give you an example, we have a hospital in Georgia right now that about 2 weeks ago, we filed 90 I-140s for nurses. And what they did, and you should, talk to your hospital about doing this if you're getting sponsored, they use something called premium processing, where they pay an extra fee. And, even though we've only been doing this for a couple of weeks, half those nurses have already had their I-140s approved. So, there's a backlog, so they're not going to get their green cards right away. But if Charlie's correct, and on October 1st, worldwide third goes current or even near current, or, if the health for the bill that Chris was talking about passes, I think that there's going to be a lot of nurses that will have their appointments in Manila sometime before the end of the year, and they'll be coming to the United States. So it's really good news that, and I want to say one thing about the Workforce Resilience Act, to the extent it's recapturing 40,000 visas plus the spouses, plus the children of those people. So a lot of those people are already in line, and that's why the line's so long. Once those people come out of the line, I think it's even more likely that EB3 will go current, and the doctors are in the EB2 category. That's current right now, but it'll probably stay current if this bill passes.
Okay, so good news there, which there's good news at this time. We'll take it. So we have also, we have a lot of questions that are coming through about the OET, and I can actually take that question and answer it. So the OET is an alternative English exam, an alternative to the IELTS and to the TOEFL. And just to be clear to everyone, the OET has only been accepted by 2 states. That is Oregon and I think it was Florida. So it has not been accepted by the CGFNS, which basically means that at this stage, there really isn't much impact for any nurses coming on an EB3 green card. In order to get the visa screen, you're still going to have to do the IELTS exam. We are actually part of the CGFNS Alliance for ethical recruitment, and have lots of talks with the CGFNS at a lot of times. And at this stage, I know they've been evaluating the OET as well as other English tests, but it has not yet been accepted by them. So just wanted to clarify that. The IELTS really is probably the best option at this time. And for anybody who has not yet passed the IELTS, please feel free to join the Connetics Swoosh Free IELTS support group. This is not just for Connetics nurses. This is really just our way of paying it forward for any nurses who are looking to pass the IELTS. It is free content. There are study partners. We have enormous activity in that group. There are thousands of people in there. It's a great community, so feel free to join that if you are looking to pass the IELTS. And we'll keep you updated if the CGFNS do accept the OET in the future. We have a specific question from Christine. Christine is asking, hi everybody, I'm already here in the US under an L2 visa. Are there employers who petition RNs like me who's already here in the US but under a different visa category? I have my NCLEX but no experience. Jacob, do you want to maybe take that question?
So she has already the L2 work permit, I assume, right? That's
yes,
what you mean.
Correct. Yes. So it seems she's a nurse. She's passed her NCLEX.
I mean, yeah, I mean, there are, I think that there are hospitals that'll do that. I mean, I see no reason why not. I mean, if she is authorized to work in the US, they don't care if she has a green card or TN. So actually, those are going to be good candidates if they have the right to work and they pass the licensing. They should be able to be sponsored. Okay,
so she would be sponsored for probably an adjustment of status green card, right?
Exactly, because she can work right away, and then they can help her with the green card.
Okay. We have a question from Paul. Will the U.S. Embassy Manila open July 31st? So that's something that's been in the news. So any knowledge or update from the panel about that?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some appointments issued, so I think it's imminent that they are opening it up. I think that's the update. So good news there.
Yeah, good.
I mean, they announced that the embassies worldwide are opening since July 15th in phases, depending on the country conditions of each embassy. So hopefully Manila is going to be, stepping up as well.
Okay. All right. So hopefully that will be open. We have a question from Chris Borja. Chris says, hi, Ms. Tanya, and to the attorneys watching from the Philippines. I wanted to ask about the refusal for the 221G. Seems like all were sent back to the USCIS. What would be the best course of action regarding this situation?
Yeah, so I mean, unfortunately, I agree that a lot of them have been sent back. I think you really only have 2 options, which is to have your employer file another I-140, which if you're current may not be a bad idea, but if you're not current, may not be a good idea. And the other option is at some point, the Texas and Nebraska service centers are going to issue 221Gs, notices of intent to revoke based on those 221Gs. And so you'll have a chance to respond to that. And I suspect we will be successful, but whether that happens now or that we get those notices of intent to revoke 9 months from now, I don't know. As Jacob was talking about, they are about to start layoffs at the USCIS, which is only going to elongate these processing times.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So we have so many questions. My head is like spinning. It's like we've got 5 minutes to go, and I can't get through all of them quick enough. But keep your questions coming, everybody, because the panel have agreed that they will answer your questions in the chat. So, so keep the questions coming. I know that this is a really stressful time. It's fast moving. There's so many things changing, but we will do our best to get through as many questions as possible. Okay, so next one comes from Arlo. Arlo is saying, I'm DQ'd already, but we are not yet current on table A. Is it possible that we can change the interview location from Philippines to Singapore? Carl.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can change the interview location. However, you know, it may delay the time that you get the interview. So if you're okay with that, that's fine. And as Jacob said before, the different embassies are opening at different times. So you have to kind of check and see when Singapore is going to open, when Manila is going to open.
Okay. And then Arlo had a second part of the question. I don't have my visa screen yet due to lack of IELTS score needed. Join the IELTS support group, Arlo. And if the time comes that I receive an interview date, is it advisable to proceed to interview knowing that I'm still lacking of the IELTS? Will the consul deny my application or put me in a 221G status instead?
Well, yeah, I wouldn't go to an interview without the visa screen if I were a nurse, because you might get denied and have to start the process over again. So I would find some reason to just postpone that interview and make sure you have a visa screen when you show up for the interview.
Yeah. I think the hard thing for so many nurses is the IELTS is just such an intimidating exam. So, and especially right now, nurses are working so many extra hours, mandatory overtime. And I think, you know, everybody kind of like puts off the IELTS, but, you know, Arlo's situation is a good warning for everybody. As Carl said, don't go to the consulate if you have not yet passed the IELTS. It's really, really, really important to get that done. You can't come to the US without the IELTS. Shell is asking, regarding the merit-based immigration system, is the EB3 nurses will be affected by this new executive order? How about the cases that are already on the NVC stage that are waiting to be current? Chris.
Yeah, so the merit, I wouldn't read too much into this merit-based. This is just President Trump going off on a tangent. It's not going to impact any case that's current. So I would, frankly, he hasn't even announced anything. I would not give it much consideration at this point. Whenever they actually release some information on it, we'll see. But he's been screaming merit-based immigration for 3.5 years, and he hasn't really done anything. So.
Okay. Okay, and I think this is going to be one of our last questions. Chris is asking for a friend. A friend of mine has an EB3 application with an approved petition awaiting to be current. Will her EB3 application during her interview be affected if she has a family like mother, brother, or sister that's in the US but is out of status? Thank you so much if the experts can shed light on this. Jacob.
I mean, I don't think it should be affecting the green card if they have family member that is out of status, especially if it's not an immediate family. You're talking about somebody random in the family?
Yeah.
Or,
yeah.
I mean,
it said, Chris hasn't said, but said a mother, brother, or sister. So
yeah,
some kind of immediate family member.
I don't think it's going to be an issue in the green card case, but I did see it be a problem in when people apply for tourist visas. They're trying to visit a family member, and then one of them is here without status. Then they may not issue the tourist visa. But I have not seen that in immigrant visa cases.
Okay. Okay, Chris, I'm just trying to pick questions as we go. So Patrick, hi Patrick, I know Patrick, is asking, hi Tanya, can I visit my family in the US with a tourist visa now during the pandemic? So I think, well, Patrick's got a petition that's pending. Chris, Carl, sorry. Who? Carl, I think.
Yeah, so that, you know, that's always a problem. No, even pandemic aside, that's always a problem, because when you come as a tourist, you have to show that you have no intention to stay permanently in the United States. And if you have a petition pending or a petition approved, it shows that you do want to stay permanently. So you'd have to, convince the people at the airport that, oh, well, I'm going to visit and I'm going to go back. I'm not going to try to adjust status in the U.S. And especially under this presidential administration, that can be pretty challenging. So, I think you're taking a risk to get on a plane and try to come in as a tourist if you have an I-140 pending. Probably
not a good idea, Patrick. Is the expert Carl Schusterman's advice?
Well,
okay.
it's my old employer and my wife, who's from the Philippines. She used to work out LAX at the airport, and I used to hear these stories every single day. So I would just say, you're paying all that money for the plane fare and all of that. It's probably not worth it. Wait till you get the green card.
Yeah. Just see your family and friends via Zoom, like we're doing right now. We have a lot of questions coming in, and some of these questions are ones that we have already answered about the visa bulletin and the Healthcare Workforce Resilience Act, the 221G. So I think we are out of time, but I wanted to finish off with our fun facts. Last week we asked our panel, last month, sorry, we asked our panel some fun facts related to their Philippine experience. This week we're just asking, what are some fun facts that we just don't know about you, that aren't in the lengthy bios that I read out about you in the olden days when we first started doing this session. Let's start with Carl. What is a fun fact that you don't know about you, Carl?
Well, since you've been talking about the IELTS, something just popped into my mind. Spelling. Even though I grew up here and spent my whole life pretty much in the United States, I'm the worst speller. I must confess. Hopefully it doesn't affect my ability to get people visas, but I'm just a lousy speller. And my wife, who's from Cebu, I'll just be writing things for my website, and I'll just yell out a word, competent, and she'll go C-O-M, because she can spell everything and I can spell nothing in English. And I'm sure she can spell well in Tagalog and Visayan, and I only know about 10 words in each language. So that's my fun fact.
Well, that sounds like a marriage made in heaven, right, Carl?
Exactly.
Good compliment.
How do you spell heaven?
Cute. Chris, what's a fun fact we don't know about you?
Well, like Carl, I'm also awful at spelling. But
oh.
Fun fact. My fun fact is here in the United States in Las Vegas, they have a very big poker tournament called the World Series of Poker in Las Vegas. And I won a satellite club this year. And so it would be going on basically right now, except they've canceled it this year because of the COVID, and they will do it next year. And so I will be playing, actually it'll be the second time, I'll be playing in the main event of the World Series of Poker. So that's
wow.
I don't gamble with visas, but I do gamble in Las Vegas.
Ah. And there you are sitting in your office when you should be in Las Vegas, right?
I should be wearing a hoodie and sunglasses and rippling chicks.
Exactly.
Right.
I have a whole different image of
our nurses are grateful because you are working on their cases, right?
Yeah, that's the silver line.
Jacob, what's a fun fact you can share about yourself?
I think it's, when I first came to the U.S., I was here on an F1 visa. I was a student. I actually overstayed my visa. Most people don't know that. I overstayed because there was a gap between my OPT and when I started my H-1B. And so the attorney back then filed a discretionary request for a change of status, and it was granted. I overstayed by 90 days, and they approved it. So.
Wow. Okay.
I always tell the story to my clients who are, stressed out, and I say, you know what, things happen. It doesn't make you a bad person. And look at me, I ended up becoming an immigration attorney eventually. So, but I did go through the process of overstaying, and I'm sharing this in front of thousands of people now. Hopefully, it's not going to bite me, right, Alice?
Well, that just shows you. I mean, you know, I love. Well, my fun fact is I love Oprah. That just came to my head now. And Oprah always says, "No experience is lost, even if it's something negative. No experience is lost." And there, Jacob was able to use that experience and help his clients going forward. Okay. Well, thank you so much to the panel. That was a lot of fun. We have a lot of questions. For everybody watching, thank you for participating. The panel have agreed to go into the chat afterwards and we'll be answering any questions that we didn't get to. Please share this, tag your friends, tag your colleagues. There is a lot of misinformation at the moment. This is a very unprecedented time. So we're really grateful that we can give you these updates. The Lafora team are just amazing to give us this platform. Thank you, everybody, and have a great weekend and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.